everyone, this is Nikki Rowland and today I have a layout for Lottie Loves Paper. I'm using the beautiful Bungalow Lane by Paige Evans. This is the first layout I've made with this collection so far, so at the moment I'm feeling a little overwhelmed by the fact that I have so much of it, and I never managed to get away from my frugal roots. I always used to save every scrap of paper and not want to cut the papers because they were so beautiful. And I always kind of have that feeling at the beginning of every time I have a new collection, like, oh, I don't want to cut into too much of it because I don't want to waste it because I love it all so much. So this layout is made using just one sheet of paper and actually it's using two. One is the squares that I'm cutting out right now and the other one is the background. So I have used two, but have not cut into any other papers. I have to get over that, otherwise I end up with no embellishments left and loads of paper, so I have to get over it. Anyway, so I have cut on my silhouette machine a heart from the squares paper. Now in every page collection there's always one of these papers that has the little 2" by 2" swatches. I think they're about 2 inches, and they're always all the different kind of patterns, I love to do different things with these. So today I thought I would cut a heart from the middle of the paper. I would say I've done that on my silhouette machine, just a basic heart, and I cut an offset size heart in white, so it's just the same heart but just a little bit bigger. And what I was planning to do and what I have done is cut up the heart that's out of the swatches cut them all apart, distress the edges and piece them back together again. So that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I've cut the whole thing apart. I am carefully doing that because I don't want to get out of order, because then it might turn into a jigsaw puzzle. I'm just making sure that they all fit back together nicely. And I'm going to distress the edges of each one before I stick them onto the heart. Now I'm only kind of tacking them in place. They don't need to be stuck down flat, and the reason for that is I'm going to do some machine stitching around the edges of each square, if they're too sticky around each edge, for example, my sewing machine needle will be going through the adhesive. I don't really mind it doing that, but the less I can do that the better, because then it just keeps it from gumming up too much. So when I'm doing something like this, I tend to put a small amount of adhesive in the middle of the square so that when I sew around the edge of the squares, I actually don't go through any adhesive. But I wouldn't ever try to sew without it stuck down, because then it would move around too much and I would end up with wonky squares. So that would be no good at all. Okay, so you can see that I've nearly finished piecing my heart back together. I've literally kept the paper in exactly the same orientation and arrangement. I could potentially have swapped out some of those 4 middle squares and swapped them around a little bit, but I didn't really see much point. It's not like I have like colours next to each other or anything like that. I don't really need to switch them out. So I've just kept them exactly the same as they were originally on the paper. They've just been chopped up and spread apart a little bit with their edges distressed. And like I said, I'm going to go and stitch them on my sewing machine. Before I did that, I splattered some white paint all over the background of course let that dry while the heart was being cut apart and stitched. I'm now to the point where my heart is stitched. All of the squares, I have individually stitched all the squares on. So I haven't just gone from top to bottom. I've literally gone around the 4 sides of the squares, stopped with the sewing machine, moved on to the next square. Okay, so I have my background in place. I have trimmed it down to like 11.5 inches or maybe 11.25 inches, distressed the edges, stuck it onto a piece of white card. I actually used the piece that I cut the heart from because, I don't like to waste anything. So it feels good to me that card has been used to its full potential. I've got my pink grid background. I love that background. It's kind of ombre. It has like a wonky grid on there. It's almost like got a sewn texture. It's almost looking like fabric. It's a really lovely pattern. Sorry, my little 3-year-old has just joined me at my table to show me his tractor. I really love that background. It's lovely, perfect type of background paper because it's kind of plain, readers are solid, but has some pattern on it. So it's exactly the right, perfect type of paper that I just love to use for backgrounds. So like I said, I have trimmed it down, stuck it onto white card, and then my heart I've put in the middle of the paper. I actually raised it up a little bit, anchored it a bit towards the top. And the reason for that was because I was planning to kind of cascade down from where my photo is sitting right now. So I was planning to kind of reach down and maybe have a little bit of, nonsense at the bottom of the paper as well. In the end, I didn't do that, but I did kind of cascade down a bit. So it was nice to have some room. Whereas if my heart had been bang in the middle of the paper or the background, it would have been more tricky and look a bit more bunched around the photo. I wouldn't have been able to spread it out so far down. So that's why I did that. I now have to work out what embellishments I can use. So I'm limited with embellishments. Still things are topsy-turvy at American Crafts, and in the first shipments, not very many embellishments were sent out with the collection. I have the chipboard, I have the layered stickers, I have these epoxy, are they epoxy stickers? The epoxy stickers are quite good. I was pleasantly surprised. Normally things like that, I was like expecting about 6 in a packet, but no, it's a full set. There's loads in there, and they are individual stickers. They have all got epoxy on them, so they're all kind of slightly domed, they are all individually backed stickers, so you can just remove the backing and stick them down. The only bad thing about that is that they're quite lightweight, those backings, so they tend to like float away and float out of the bin. And I have literally just walked out of my craft room to put my boy to bed and found one stuck to the bottom of my foot. So that's one of the bad things about those. The plastic tends to float around the house. Okay, so I'm really happy with the epoxy stickers. I do feel like I have a pack of ephemera, which is of course what's missing from the American Crafts shipments at the moment. So there's no ephemera, floral ephemera, sticker books, all that kind of things. They are gradually coming in, so do keep an eye on the shop. Hopefully I will grab some packs when they arrive as well. The cardstock stickers as well, they're also missing, but hopefully they will be in very soon. But yeah, so what seems to be the way things are going now at the moment with deliveries from AC, doesn't it? We seem to be missing a lot of stuff in the initial shipment, so it's a bit frustrating for people when they want to get hold of the full collection, but I'm hoping that things will filter through, and we can't use it all at once anyway, so it's definitely fine. So I have the chipboard as well. I've used the chipboard frame, which I actually backed with white cardstock, and I've just slotted that behind my photo. I've put that on an angle, so it's kind of like a diamond shape rather than a square shape. And I've added a big layered sticker to the top right of the photo. And then I'm just going through and adding bits and pieces. Now, my layout is pretty busy because I have a patterned paper background and I also have the patterned paper's patchwork heart. Try saying that quickly. I need to be careful that I don't overload it. So I'm going to have to keep my embellishments fairly simple, even though I'm dying to put a huge cluster around the photo, which I kind of do. But I just needed to make sure that I don't go overboard. So I'm adding, the layered sticker. I've also got some of the epoxy shapes, got some leaves and some flowers. I've got a little banner across there that says wonderful, adding some leaves underneath that banner, and there's a little bunny rabbit as well. That's really, really cute. My daughter loves bunny rabbits, so anything with her on it, if I add a bunny, it makes complete sense, even though we don't have any bunnies. That makes total sense. And I decided to go for a Bramble Fox title for my title. It says, it's in that kind of coral colour. It goes really well with these papers, and it says, let's have fun. I think it was from a Fox box. I've stuck that onto, I'm going to stick that onto that kind of brownie square. It's got a grid design on it. Oh, my 3-year-old's come to join me. This is probably why my title went slightly wrong. So really it should have stuck further towards the photo, so it sat exactly on the brown square, because then it would have showed up better. But unfortunately, I have got it over to the left a little bit, and it's over the crack, the gap between the patterns. And I suspect that this is the reason why, because I have Theo sitting on my lap, interfering with my layout. So yes, his is just a bit of a distraction sometimes, so I suspect that's why it's not in exactly the right place. I probably would have put it if he hadn't have been there. Okay, I've added another layered sticker heart at the top there. I've got some butterflies, and what I actually now went to do was look in my Wonders collection. So I still have some Wonders embellishments left over, and I thought, do you know what, most of the collections go with previous collections, so I thought I'd just have a rummage around and see if there's anything in there that I could use up, because they go well. I'm probably not going to use them much on anything else, so I just thought, you know, because I'm pretty much done, I don't have any papers left. I've got no papers left, I don't think. So I just thought I'll see what I can use and what goes. And actually I found a few things that went, because I was looking for small things, you see, but with the embellishments that I do have from Bungalow Lane, nothing is very small, because all the small things have not arrived. So yeah, I went looking in Wonders. I found some paper flowers. I love those. And I found some other little bits and pieces, some heart stickers, yes, and then there's a chipboard piece there. It's a flower. So I've just added those few small things in there, and a little label sticker as well, and some other hearts. And I've added a couple or 3 or 4 Bramble Fox hearts and a Bramble Fox bee as well. We're out in the garden, so bees are fair game, even though this layout's not about bees. Yeah, so it's getting there, nearly done. I just want to add some sequins. So I'm just currently rummaging through my stash to see what I can find, see what works. I scattered them all over the place, but I didn't really like how that looked. So I'm just going to come in with a few sprinkled in just very specific areas, so that I don't, overwhelm the layout, because it is so very, very busy. Just putting loads of extra sequins on it probably would have detracted from it even further. So I thought that just a few sprinklings in certain areas would look better. Sorry about the sunbeam that's coming across the layout. It doesn't happen very often, but obviously it was a sunny moment in the UK. They've been very few and far between this year. I'm just handwriting in my journaling on that plain-ish square on my heart, and that is me done. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this layout. It's quite busy, and I'm sad that the title doesn't read as well as I would have hoped, but all these little clusters are beautiful. All the embellishments from Bungalow Lane are beautiful, so make sure you check those out from the Lottie Loves Paper shop. Thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed it. That was Nikki Rowland for Lottie Loves Paper.